Hi, I'm Oz from Expert Sleepers, talking to Analog Zone about what I've got on the rack for NAMM2016. In the rack, I've got my computer interfacing stuff. I've got my FH1 fader host MIDI module with a whole bunch of controllers, but what I'm going to talk about mostly now is the Disting Mark III, which is new since last NAMM, and particularly the new firmware that should be ready next week for that module. So I've got 10 Distings here, all of them doing different things in with the patch, and forgive me if I forget what does what. I'll start with this one because it's just doing something by itself. This one's experimental, but it will be released soon. Can we get them to turn that? Okay. So this one is experimental firmware that's playing back WAV files off the SD card. The Disting Mark III has a SD card on the PCB which was originally intended for firmware updates, but we've got some code running to play sample files, and it's got 8 different files there. You can change them on the knob here. A drum loop going, like a Rhodes loop. The field recording of some surf. And of course this is voltage controllable, this sample, so this is something we expect to release in maybe a month or two once that's had a bit more work. But the bulk of the new features, this is the new cheat sheet for the Disting Mark III. The bulk of the new features for this firmware version are 2 new delay modes, clockable ping pong modes, whole bunch of envelope generators, individual ones, dual ones, clockable ones, ones with built-in VCAs, so if you want to have an envelope affecting the level of a sound, you can do that all within the one algorithm. And then some random CV and random trigger generation modes. So if I fade up this one, I think. So what's happening here is this Disting is in a quantized random voltage mode. The pitch is controlled in this Disting, which is the VCO, I think. No, it's clearly not. Hang on. Yes, it is. Okay. Just switching the octaves. And that's going through this Disting, which is a envelope and VCA. So it's getting the trigger from the random thing. And if I twist this knob, this is going to be the envelope shape. So that's super short, sweeping through longer decays, long attack and release. And now that's like a long attack and a shorter release. And back to short and short. So that's kind of fun. The quantized random one has all the scales that the Disting's own quantizer mode supports. So if I switch between those, so that's no scale, major scale, and root and fifth, all the classic scales. So that's that one. This one here is doing random triggers. So I've got that, if I just unplug that. So one of the triggers is doing a snare on this module, the other one is triggering another Disting over here, which is in the resonator mode, which is new in the Disting Mark III, which is kind of a drum synthesizer thing. And then this Disting here is generating a CV to control the pitch of that drum. And the nice thing about having that on there is using the another new feature of the Disting Mark III, which is the knob recorder. If I push that knob in while turning it, it'll then loop that CV sweep. If I then take control over it again. And then again. There we go. So that's that one. I think that's all I've got easily set up to demo here. Oh, the ping pong delay, everything that you hear is going through a ping pong delay, but unfortunately you're only taking one channel of that, so you can't hear the stereo, but believe me, there's a lovely stereo echo going on over all the top of this. And that's clocked. Everything here is being clocked from an FH1 actually. The FH1 in recent firmware has its own internal tempo generator. It can clock to an analog clock pulse from elsewhere in the modular. It can clock to MIDI clock, or it can generate its own tempo, and that tempo can be set from a MIDI CC, or it's got a tap tempo mode as well, so you can tap in a tempo, and that will run its own sequences, but that'll also run its tempo synced LFOs. And what I have on this particular one is 4 of the outputs are doing different clock divisions on tempo locked LFOs, and then one of those is going into this big mult, and then everything that's clocked is clocked from that. So the random triggers, the random CVs, and the clock for the ping pong delay, and they're all being clocked from the FH1 there. So, and that's being driven from the launch pad. So I think if I do this and stop it, it'll all stop. And then if I do a different tempo, it'll start. There we go. So, and then that's driving a sequence on a different thing, which I haven't got turned up. But yeah. So I think I've run out of things to say at this point. So new firmware coming probably next week, straight after NAMM, for the Disting Mark III. Thank you very much.